At home, drawing pictures of mountaintops with heaven's fire, the yellow sun. Psych, you're not really at a Pearl Jam concert. You're at episode 148 of Shoe Booty Sports. I'm your host, Graham Powell. On this screen, that's co host Bradley Brown on the other. Say what's up, Brad.
What's happening?
Pretty spot on Eddie Vedder, wasn't
Yeah, I was very confused on who I was talking to there for a split second.
it? Yeah, you about broke your lighter out, I know. Okay, before we get started, we got lots to talk about, but let's give a quick shout out to our sponsor first and foremost. Shoe Booty Sports is presented by Rhino Races. Rhino Races is a virtual race series that offers 5 different races: a 5K, 10K, half marathon, a marathon, and the one of a kind Rhino Ultra. You can sign up for one or all 5 of their races at rhinoraces.com. Run your race at your convenience. Track it with your fitness app of choice. Screenshot your results as proof of completion. Once that screenshot is verified by Rhino Races staff, your award will be shipped to you by mail. Also, check out their gear section for t-shirts, wristbands, decals, and more. That's rhinoraces.com. Rhino Races is the premier virtual running series. And you can find us, Shoe Booty Sports, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on X at Shoe Booty Sports. Okay, before we get started, something I was perusing my timeline, just killing time before you logged on here, and left this off my topic list. Don't know how I did. Um, the long-awaited showdown in the hot dog eating world took place. Was it Labor Day? Was it yesterday?
Yeah, it was yesterday.
Exclusively on Netflix. It was Joey Chestnut and Takeru Kobayashi, and yeah, this was, I mean, these two guys made the sport famous, and Chestnut, I mean, Kobayashi was the man, when we were, I don't want to say growing up, but like in their 20s, like early 20s, early mid
Yeah.
20s. And then Chestnut eventually overcame him and just never looked back. And that was pretty much the case, or Kobayashi hasn't gained any ground based on seeing the results yesterday. I was blown away when I saw how many hot dogs Joey Chestnut put down.
Was it
Yes,
82?
83 hot dogs in 10 minutes.
It's more
Kobayashi,
hot dogs than I eat in 2 years, man.
yeah,
It's
I mean,
like,
Kobayashi ate, I think, 65 or something. I mean, it wasn't like he didn't come to play. It's just Joey Chestnut came to dominate and just show who the GOAT was. And
yeah.
83 hot dogs, man. 83. That breaks his own record. I don't know if it'll ever be considered like official, but 83 dogs in 10 minutes. Wow. That's all I got to say. When I saw that, I did everything I could to find like the very end of it on like YouTube, and caught bits and pieces, but it made me think of it because it showed on that just going through the timeline, it showed like his face immediately after, and it's just a face of pain, even for
Oh yeah.
Joey Chestnut. I mean, you can tell he's just hurting. Of 83 hot dogs in 10 minutes. I don't think I've eaten 83 hot dogs in the last decade, and he did it.
It's yeah.
I haven't done that in 10 years. He did it in 10 minutes. So yeah, Joey Jaws Chestnut, no yellow strap to keep or bring to the states, or bring or keep to the states, but certainly a big pride thing. I mean, that's a pretty good dub. So shout out to Joey Jaws Chestnut. Okay, so let's talk some WNBA before we get started on the college football season. Because Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and Indiana Fever, it's always a hot topic. And their latest and last matchup of the season did not disappoint, didn't lack drama, as is the case with all of their games that we've seen. But quickly, I mean, the Fever are officially, for the first time since 2019, they're officially over 500 with a 17 and 16 record. They beat I believe it was the Minnesota Lynx yesterday. believe it was yesterday. Yeah, I think it was. I can't remember. I think it was. It had to be Monday or Sunday. I don't remember. Either way,
It had
I
to have been one
wanted
of those, right?
I wanted to
That's
watch the game. It was on NBA TV, and for whatever reason, it was blacked out in my area, which I found annoying. But
yeah.
it looked like a good game. Enrique Agumbawale is another Bay player of mine that I enjoy watching. But of course, Caitlin Clark's the reason I'm tuning in and wanted to see that game. Looked like a really good game. Ogumbawale showed up, had 30 plus points, like 34 points or something like that. But the Fever got it done. They are 8-2 in their last 10 games, and they are 17-16 overall. But okay, let's go back to the matchup with the Sky. That was Friday night. I got home pretty early, all things considered. I had to get up at 5 a.m. Saturday morning because I had a 5K race I had to do. But I got home, I don't remember when, but 6:30, maybe 6:30 ish. Probably about 7, I think I got home because I think the game between the Fever and Sky started around 6:30, and it was the second quarter. Indiana, did you catch any of the game?
A little bit of it. I tuned in the fourth quarter.
Well, it was pretty well out of hand, I think, by then. But
Yeah.
Indiana was up the entire time. They were all. It was up. They were up anywhere between like 4 points and 12. It seemed like the entire game. And the Chicago never threatened really. I never felt like they had a chance in it. Uh, the Fever are just clicking. I mean, they've found their groove. They've kind of found their roles. Caitlin Clark's kind of found her role in the team. And I mean, she facilitates first and she shoots when the defense gives it to her or just gives her some breathing room. Like that's the
Yeah.
thing. She's been defended, so she's had somebody on her like glue ever since the season started. And I think they just haven't really known how to play really together and as a team or how to combat opposing teams' defenses against them. But it seems like they found their groove. Clark is just facilitating, and they do have some shooters. Kelsey Mitchell is balling right now. I didn't think she was very good at the start of the year, but she's a shot maker. She's come on. She's a player. Lexi Hull has found a role on that team, hitting shots. It's basically like kind of like what LeBron does, like facilitates and takes the shot when it's given to him, except Caitlin Clark is a better shooter. And yeah, and I don't know, they're making them pay. But like I said, Fever 8-2 in their last 10 games, officially over 500 now, bumped up to like sixth or seventh in the overall standings. Top 8 make the playoffs. But yeah, in that game in particular, it didn't lack drama. Diamond DeShields comes into the game, and basically it appeared her only role coming into the game was to foul Caitlin Clark. She had 2 really silly back-to-back fouls. I mean, just back-to-back, and complained vehemently each time, and both were clear fouls. And then
Yeah.
shortly thereafter, just full-on hockey checks her as Caitlin Clark's trying to move up the floor on a fast break. Clear flagrant foul, clear flagrant one. I saw after you see Angel Reese talking about she gets a different whistle, talking to might have been to Shields, one of her teammates, referring to Caitlin Clark, saying that Caitlin Clark gets a different whistle, and she didn't get enough whistles in that game. I mean they did call the flagrant and the fouls against her, but I saw an interesting stat, something like this number could be wrong, but it's about 17, 18%, something along those lines of the flagrant fouls in the WNBA this season have been against Caitlin Clark. 80% of those have been committed by the Chicago Sky. So you do the math there. Numbers don't lie, as they say.
Yeah. That's a
But
lot of special whistles.
yeah, But the big takeaway for me, when the Fever were up 20 points, 20 points, maybe a little more, maybe. 4 minutes left in the game. Caitlin Clark gets pulled along with the rest of the starters. She leaves the game with 31 points, 12 rebounds, or excuse me, 12 assists. So gets a double double. And so basically, both teams pull all their starters and put in bench players, except for Angel Reese stays out there. Angel
with her
Reese
5 points. Yeah.
had like 5 points. I think she had double digit rebounds by then, but she had like 5 points. And then she's just, calling for the like aggressively calling for the ball every possession just so she can get that double double while they're down 20 points. And I mean, getting embarrassed at home on
On her
top of
night. On
the
her night, Barbie night.
yeah, okay, I forgot about that. On Barbie night, you wouldn't have known it was a home game necessarily. I mean, had you looked at the crowd, it was almost like a neutral setting. Uh, a lot of Fever jerseys there. Caitlin Clark got quite the ovation, a standing ovation as she left the floor. I'm sure that made Angel Reese and company, including Sheryl Swoopes, extra salty. But yeah, like that's how she got her record 23rd double double. And to hear the announcer celebrate it like Hank Aaron just hit home run number 715 was embarrassing. And to see ESPN and whoever else did it post about it, her and her tiara, Angel Reese, that is, talking about her record 23rd double double for a rookie. And it got about the reaction you would expect. Some people congratulating her. I'd say at least half the people pointing out the fact that how she got that double double in garbage time, which is how she's gotten a
She's gotten
good
quite a few in garbage time. Yeah.
a good chunk of those double doubles, especially when she had that streak going during garbage time. It cheapens the actual statistic, um, and it's embarrassing. I don't see how she could. I don't see how Angel Reese, her coach, Witherspoon, I can't remember her first name. I don't see how they could look at that and just think and be proud of that. Like that's how you got it was in garbage time. Your thoughts on it? Anything to add to that?
I thought I don't know, I thought it was pretty asinine. I think it was before the game. You seen ESPN release their poll on who the rookie of the year favorite was, and they had Angel Reese up there at number one, which pretty much says they haven't watched. I don't know. It's almost like they haven't watched the season unfold. I mean, yeah, she's gotten a lot of cheap double doubles, cheap in the statistics. Um, but yeah, the way Clark played in that game versus Reese, and the way she got her double double blew all the smoke out of the way, so everybody can see clearly who the rookie of the year actually is. Um, that Yeah, that's all I got to say about that. There's no denying that she is rookie of the year. Heck, if she keeps going, she could be a legit candidate for MVP.
I think she should be. I'm not saying she should win it, but she should be at least considered for league MVP. I mean, the look at the Fever's record, how they've done their last 10 games. They've won 8 of their last 10. Chicago has lost 8 of their last 10.
Yes, about to
So
say when was their last win even?
in a minute, they are now 11-21 overall. The Chicago Sky, that is. Like I said, 2-8 in their last 10 games. They
Um,
actually still have a playoff spot. They're dead. They're the final playoff spot right now.
Man,
But it doesn't look
them rebounds sure are paying off.
it doesn't look like they're going to make much noise in the playoffs. When they get there, they'll have to play the number one seed. I'm guessing.
I'm sure Angel will get her double double and her losing. So
That's the one of the first times that I saw like her because I didn't watch the games for a good chunk of the years because I've been busy. Hadn't had a chance to just sit down and watch. I just see she's racking up double double after double double. So I'm thinking, okay, I mean she's playing. Like I mean she's doing work. And then I saw a clip of the New York, or how the New York Liberty, I believe it was, they were, of course, smoking them. I think they were up 14 or 16 in the final minute or so of the game. Reese is just aggressively calling for the ball as she normally does now, just to get her double double. Liberty knew what was going on, and so they put four on her when she caught it to prevent her from keeping that streak alive. And that's when I first saw that, okay, this is how she's getting her double doubles. And lost a lot of respect. I mean, Angel Reese is Angel Reese. I respect her as a competitor and a player to an extent, but gosh, I don't like a lot of the stuff she does, says, does, etc., and on and off the court. And this is one of those things I can't like at all, and I don't see how really anybody can.
I mean, I'm sure you've seen the picture of her wearing the Rodman jersey, going into the game versus the Fever, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, she is the Rodman." Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Rodman's teams win? Like, didn't his rebounds mean something? So
Yeah, had like what, five rings, something along those lines.
yeah,
Okay, trying to get off the screen here. All right, so I had a tweet that went semi-viral.
yeah,
I
you did.
guess is what you would call it. Um, I tweeted after that game, seeing all that. This was quote: Caitlin Clark leaves the game with 4 minutes left in a blowout win. I put 31 points in parentheses. Meanwhile, Angel Reese stays in with the bench players solely so she could record her 23rd double double. It's laughable if this rookie of the year race between the two is even close. And last I checked, it had like 267 retweets and 3.8 thousand likes. So
Dang.
it's gotten a little. So that's what I mean by it went a little bit viral. I had to turn my notifications off on Twitter because I was getting something every second. I was like, okay, I don't care anymore. Like
Yeah.
and then I just checked like a day or two later, and I was like, oh my god, like, how is that still circulating? I think it finally calmed down, and it's kind of stuck right at that 3.8, or yeah, 3,800 range. But yeah, I made a good point, I thought. So I think that's all it was, and people recognizing it. Yeah, this rookie of the year race is a wrap. And I say, and a lot of people, I did see a lot of people replied it never was close. And I'm like, it shouldn't have been close. I never responded just because I wasn't going to do it to everybody. But I was like, it shouldn't have been close, but it was, in the eyes of really Angel Reese fans. I don't see how you could look at the two of them objectively and give it to Angel Reese. Angel Reese is not the player Caitlin Clark is. She's just
No.
not. A lot of people want her to be. She's not.
Yeah, she's a rebounder, not a basketball player.
She's not a skilled basketball player. She's a good rebounder. She's a pretty decent defender. She's a competitor. She's feisty. Do I want her on my team? Yes, I do. But she's just look at her shot. Sometimes she shoots with her left hand. Sometimes she shoots with her right hand. She holds the ball like a toddler when shooting. It's she's just not a skilled player, and offensively at least. So I'm not trying to dog on her, but if we're even though she's got that dog in her, according to her, but yeah, you just can't look at the two and they're not the same caliber of player. They're just not. All right, so all right, so I did see that Sheryl Swoopes got removed as a broadcaster from the Fever and Lynx game, whatever day it was. Might have been yesterday. I had a Sunday or Monday, one of the two. I don't remember at this point because I didn't get to see the game. It got blacked out in my area. At least that's the excuse I'm going to use. Apparently, it happened after Sheryl Swoopes put out a tweet talking. Basically, it was supportive of Diamond DeShields, the Sky player that had those. Well, one hard foul, flagrant foul. The other two just kind of cheap fouls on her. Caitlin Clark, that is. It's just clear Sheryl Swoopes is just going out of her way to push back on this Caitlin Clark effect. And it's hard to say that to look at it and say it's not personal. Um, it's but it's clearly pettiness. It's jealousy. Sheryl Swoopes was a great basketball player, a Hall of Famer. I believe a four-time WNBA champion, Olympic gold medalist at least once that I know of, and um, to see the way that she's acted when it comes to Caitlin Clark, saying all the things about her she said, like on Gilbert Arenas' podcast, calling her a bully and saying, Angel Reese should be the rookie of the year and things like that. Okay, you can have that opinion, doesn't make it correct, but to also see just what show was she on where she talked about how the Indiana Fever were playing well and named every player but Caitlin Clark?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, Stephen A. Smith called her out on it, and rightfully so. And to put that tweet out there for Diamond to Shields, it's like what are it's this chick is this legend, Sheryl Swoopes, is just comes across as petty, unhinged. Um, I don't know. I don't want to. I'm hesitant to say racist or anything like that, but you can't help but think racism involves. Um, but it's just it's a bad look, man. And she's taken a dump on her own legacy.
Yeah.
Like she was a great player, and this is how people see you today, just as basically a hater. Like you're Caitlin Clark's number one hater. Like that's what you're known as right now. Not the legend, but you don't like Caitlin Clark. Like you're going out of your way to not support the girl, Caitlin Clark. That is, and I don't know that you necessarily have to be a fan of her, but you got to respect what she's done for the game and bringing an audience to the sport. And it's like she's one of the top people that are pushing against it, which we've seen a large chunk of the WNBA players do. And Sheryl Swoopes, although not a player, a legendary player from the league, is in many ways leading that charge against this Caitlin Clark effect. And really, it's just sad. It's sad. It's a bad look. Um, yeah, it's and she just keeps digging. It's like the whole just she keeps digging it further and further with every tweet and everything else she says. But I think but she's so invested into that, she's not ever going to come out of it. It's just going to get worse and worse, I think.
Yeah.
Have you heard much about it or paid much attention to it?
I've seen the tweet that she sent out to Diamond to Shields, but then I seen them like a clip or two of Sharp talking about it on his show or his podcast, and then him demanding that where's all the naysayers at now? Where's all this trash talk that we were hearing at the beginning of the season? Y'all shut up real quick. He's like, we don't hear any of y'all now, except for Swoops.
Yeah, she's the only one who keeps talking and just saying nonsense. I mean,
Yeah.
she's acting like a fool. I mean, if she really thinks this, she's foolish. She's as foolish as can be. And it's just sad to see, really. Like it's not even like I like Caitlin Clark. I've always been a fan of hers, but seeing the way Sheryl Swoopes is acting is just sad. It don't even make me mad or anything like that. Which if it doesn't involve me, I'm not gonna get mad anyway. But it's just kind of sad to watch, like from the outside looking in. All right, so touching up on a couple more things before we move on. One, if anything, this season has shown me, and especially the game with the Sky, the Indiana Fever need to add an enforcer or two in the off season. I don't know who you get. I don't know who's considered like a tough gal in that league, but you gotta find your Draymond. You gotta find your drawing a blank because I'm listening to my dog coughing. But your Charles Oakley, you got to find that enforcer type of person to protect your star, because nobody on this current Fever team is going to do it. We've seen that. They have some skilled players. They don't have any tough people. Um, you got to go get somebody to protect your star. You have to. One or two people, like go do that. All for that. I mean, do what you got to do to make your team better, but make a move to protect your star too. And if I'm the GM there, I'm bringing the people I think can do that in, saying, "Look, this is the role I want you to play. Like, yeah, I want you to make our team better, but I want you to protect not only our star, but the maybe the game's biggest star." Okay, I'm hesitant to say that, but I meant it coming out. I meant like men and women, but women, yeah, our shooting freaking star. I need you to protect this, and I would make that a point. Also, the WNBA needs to step in and do something about this as well. Because I pointed out the numbers as far as flagrant fouls go that have been committed against Caitlin Clark. The NBA did this when the Bad Boy Pistons and company were hammering Jordan as he entered the lane every game. The WNBA needs to do the same thing with Caitlin Clark, because the NBA was smart enough to know we need to protect this guy's our biggest moneymaker and is going to be for the next whatever for extended period of time for the next years to come, however long that may be. This is going to be our top prize moneymaker, and the NBA put rules in place to make sure that Jordan did get protected. To an extent, didn't go out of their way to sway games in his favor or anything like that. But that whole Jordan rule stuff, that went away pretty quick when David Stern got involved. You didn't see much of that um, after that season that initially happened, at least in the playoffs, going back to the 1990. But yeah, the NBA put rules in place to protect Jordan. The WNBA needs to do the same to protect Caitlin Clark. If you have any sense about you, that's what you should be doing. Agree, disagree, any comment?
I would agree with that. I mean, yeah, you said the Jordan rule. I mean, NFL did it for Brady Tuck rule. You're not only protecting, that player. I mean, you're pretty much protecting the health of all the players. So, yeah, I would agree with it.
You're protecting your biggest moneymaker. I mean, it's just a smart business decision. And the
Yeah,
WNBA has been pretty much everything but smart when it comes to business.
yeah. WNBA has just been hands off this whole time. So it's like nobody's running the thing, which I don't think they are. So
That's the way it appears. The one thing they got right was the WNBA All Stars versus Team USA in an Olympic year. That was
yeah,
the one thing they got right. They've crapped the bed on everything else, and I don't know. I don't see like somebody's done this for you. Like the NBA showed you the blueprint of what to do here, and all you have to do is follow it. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk some football. College football got underway officially week one. A lot of stuff happens. Florida State after week one is somehow down. They're 0-2 and completely out of the top 25. They were
yeah.
number 10 in the country coming into the season, all the way out of the top 25. I watched
As
both
they
games.
should be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were awful. Last night, was it at Boston? Or no, they were at home against, they were in Tallahassee, right?
Yeah. They were at home.
and lost to Boston College, a Bill O'Brien led Boston College, which I didn't know that was where he was. But yeah, Florida State, man, night and day compared to where they were this time a year ago. DJ Ugunlele, however the heck you say his last name, I hear some people throw the I and A in there and others don't. Um, Apparently, Florida State spent money to get him to come to Florida State, and man, talk about a bad investment. Um, I kept waiting
Very
for
bad.
I kept waiting for Mike Norvell to sit him, and
The crowd was calling for it.
yeah,
The crowd was chanting for the backup.
I'm guessing they didn't because of the amount of money they're paying him. I don't know, but I don't see how you could stick with that going into week 3. If anything, I'm opening up the quarterback competition today at practice or tomorrow, whenever they get back to it. And I mean, I'm opening it up and I'm saying, I don't care what we're paying you. Like, this is an open quarterback competition now. I mean, what a disappointment.
It's looking like the Florida FSU game in November is going to be really fun to watch. Because Florida, man, they look terrible.
Yeah, that'll be the toilet bowl at this rate.
Yeah.
But I mean, as a guy that watches a lot of Clemson football, it was just more of what I saw for 2 years. And Clemson fans in general, they're like, yeah, this is why we let him go. This is why we were totally okay with him leaving and going elsewhere. That's what Clemson fans dealt with. Of course, you go from Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence to that. But it was, I mean, a dramatic drop off. And yeah, it was bad. It's been a bad, it's been a bad first couple of games for DJ Ugunlele and Florida State. I'm opening up the quarterback competition. Outside of that, I don't know what else you do. Okay. Let's talk our Razorbacks for a little bit. Arkansas UAPB. It was actually let's hold off on that because it looks like we're going to have a part 2 for this. I don't see how we squeeze all this into this last portion of the part 1 of the show. So we'll talk about the Hogs in a little bit. Let's go back to Clemson though. Clemson and Georgia. That wasn't much of a game. I was excited to come back from my race and watch that. I had a hard time staying interested in it. Georgia, clearly to me, the best team in the country still. Of course, there was a lot more dominance in the SEC. We'll talk about that in a bit. But Clemson is not the Clemson we're used to seeing or saw, 5, 6 years ago before NIL became a thing. And of course, Dabo is famously just not doing NIL, not taking transfers. And we've seen drop off, but I mean, could they win 6, 7 games this year? Of course they can.
Yeah.
But we're used to talking about Clemson like they are national championship contenders. Uh, he's going to have to change. Okay? I know he's got his ideas of what he likes and what he wants to do, and it's worked for him to this point. But the whole thing about evolution is if you don't adapt with the times, you perish.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen, I'm afraid, to Dabo Swinney if he doesn't adapt to the new environment of college football, which is, let me put it this way. Let me put it this way. All right, if you're an NFL GM, it would be like being an NFL GM and saying, I'm only going to play the players I've drafted. I'm not going to bring in any free agents. How do you think that would go?
You'd be in last place every season.
Exactly. So if it doesn't work at the NFL, which is pro football, it's not going to work in the college game because it's now pro football. So if you don't adapt to the times and the current climate of college football, I mean, heck, look what the U of A did. Look what the University of Arkansas did. They were terrible a year ago. Awful. Even though it was UAPB that they played Thursday, might as well have been playing Cabot High School. That's about as much competition as there was for the Hogs. You could still tell this is a better team. Like this is a much better team than they had a year ago. I don't recognize. I don't recognize many of those names, if any. Luke Haas, although he didn't play. He only played the first portion of the season last year because of injury.
Yeah.
There were a lot of new names and faces. Even calling the plays, although not new-ish, from another era, Hog era, more successful era. Again, we'll touch up on that here in part two. But going back to Clemson and Dabo, you got to adapt. You got to adapt to the current climate of college football. If you don't, you're going to be you'll eventually be out of a job because you created a successful program and now fans expect that. And if you don't live up to that, they're going to want to see a change at some point. And yeah, you're not you can't win like you did before with your old ways. The game has changed and now you're going to have to as well adapt. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Swallow your
Of course,
pride.
about to say, they felt good after that first half, though. I was a little surprised to see the halftime score of 6-0 Georgia. And then I was out playing golf, but once I checked on it about 40 minutes later, I was like, oh, looks like Georgia finally woke up. Um, your
Dabo's a
mic
great
now. Yes.
Dabo's a great coach. I mean, we've seen that. I mean, they played Georgia tough really in the last several years. I mean, but Georgia does eventually separate themselves. Um, Even without Venables, I mean, Clemson's always had a pretty tough defense, and so I'm not surprised that they were competitive with them. But Cade Klubnik isn't. I mean, he's better than DJ Ugunlele,
Yeah.
but he's not
He-
Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun Watson either.
Well,
They don't
I
have the
mean,
offensive firepower that they used to.
no, but then again, those guys weren't running for their life the way he is. From the highlights I seen, he was running all over the place trying to get away from them Georgia defenders. And the few times that he actually had a couple of seconds to sit back there in the pocket and throw, he had some pretty good passes. He put them on the money, but everything else, man, was awful.
You're right about that. It just goes back to Dabo can't get the players he used to, and that's because he hasn't caught up with the game yet. The game is leaving him behind, and if he doesn't catch up, they're done for. Like I said, adapt or perish. Okay, well, we're going to conclude part one with that. We'll be back in a sec with part two.